Thank you everyone for joining this little presentation about size, what I would call a little training about some size products. And I want to talk about actually some special features of Zeiss lenses, especially Zeiss progressive lenses, and our latest lens portfolio, the Smart Life lens portfolio. Yes, next slide. First of all, I wanted to show you these pictures. And if I would ask you a question, what do you see? Actually, you don't see that much. You see a lens, you see a coating on that lens, you see that beautiful Zeiss engraving, but actually it's a transparent piece of plastic. Although there's like very exclusive technology inside of these lenses. And I want to talk to you a little bit about these today. First of all, I want to talk about designs. What are our competitors doing? Our competitors do in progressive lenses soft designs or semi-soft designs. And what is that? Actually, it has an advantage. If you go to the aberration zones to the side of the lenses, they go up slowly, soft. It has a second advantage that the intermediate corridor is larger. But it has also two very important disadvantages. And that is that the far area and the reading area is small. In Zeiss, we do it different. We work the other way around. We are hard designed lenses. So in hard design, we make that far area as big as possible in the optical world for a certain correction, for a certain frame. And the same for the near area. We will make it as large as possible. That's the main advantages. It has also a disadvantage. Once you go in the aberration zones to the sides of the lenses, the aberrations go up faster and the intermediate corridor is smaller. But to do so, you really need very strong algorithms to calculate these lenses. And it's a big challenge, but in Zeiss we like this challenge. And this is one of the strengths of the Zeiss company, making hard design lenses. So another special feature of Zeiss progressive lenses is that you really can adapt the intermediate corridor between the fitting cross for far and the reading area to the distance you want between 9 and 16 millimeters. You want to order a 9.5 millimeter or a 10.6 millimeter or a 12.7, you can do that. So special feature, second special feature, Zeiss lenses, this adaptable intermediate corridor. So next slide, please. So, yeah, can you come back, please? So, now in a progressive lens, you all know, we have a far area, intermediate area, and a reading area. But actually, in Zeiss, we have a fourth area. And we are the only one having this fourth area in a progressive lens. Nobody has this. And it's a digital area. It's under the near area. And why do we do that? Why do we have this area? It's an area to read actually on smartphones or on tablets. Because if we use a smartphone or a tablet, we are reading much higher, like this. And we're reading closer. Just observe around you what we are doing. We are reading much closer, between 25 and 30 centimeters. So that's why we have this fourth area, especially for digital devices. And why are we the only ones having this? Because I told you in the beginning, we are hard design lenses. If you want to put that fourth area in a lens, you need space. And we have that space in Zeiss lenses because we are hard designs lenses. Now, another special feature of Zeiss lenses, this time about materials, is that all our Zeiss lenses, whatever lens you buy from Zeiss, it can be a stock lens, in 1.5, 1.6 RX lens, it will be always 100% UV protection inside the material. And why are we working inside the material? Well, actually, if you use a coating on a lens, the UV coating is actually an outer layer and it wears off. You can buy a lens with 100% UV protection in the coating, but after 6 months, it's far from 100%. By doing it inside the material, it stays always, and it will always be 100%. And actually ours is really 100%, but because you can still say that there was some light coming from behind, reflecting in the lens, back into the eyes. Well, what we do is we add an extra layer in our coating, in our back coating, that absorbs also this 5% of UV that's coming from behind. So whatever lens you buy from Zeiss, it will always be 100% UV protected. And it's something really important because it's the cost, and you're all eye specialists, you're all doctors in optometry. You know that UV is the cause of many eye problems like cataract, macular degeneration, and many more. So it's really important to protect your eyes for UV. Also, especially for children, don't forget, children have very clear optical systems. The UV goes through the optical system very easily and burns into the eye behind because they have high energy. And of course, the problems will come when they are getting older. It can be very easily avoided by selling a Zeiss lens. And something you maybe don't know is that we actually are not a company, we are a foundation. And normally when there is a new invention like this one, like UV protection inside the material, we would patent it. But Zeiss, as foundation, thought this was really important for the world population, and we left it open for copying already 4 years now. It has not been done yet, but we invite still every lens provider to do the same. Oh, next slide, please. So that was a couple of special features of Zeiss lenses. We are hard design lenses. We have an adaptable corridor, and we have a digital zone in progressive lenses. Something I want to repeat maybe about this adaptable corridor, because if you put a digital zone in a progressive lens is, you want to put it where you need it. And I told you already, if you use digital devices, you want to bring your phone up. So you need to bring that digital zone and reading area up. And if you have an adaptable corridor in a progressive lens, you really can do that. If you don't have that, you cannot do that. So this adaptable corridor is a very nice feature in the time we're living in. So I want to talk now a little bit about our latest portfolio, lens portfolio. It's called Smart Life lenses. And actually, if we make a new portfolio of lenses, what do? Well, we send people into the market, specialists in visual behavior. They study visual behavior, and they look around if they can see a new behavior. And what did we notice actually? Already a couple of years ago, we noticed that everyone is on the phones all the time. Many people, young people especially, but actually the fastest growing group of people on smartphones now is the older people, the 55 plus people. And actually, yes, next slide please. And actually, sometimes you use even several devices at the same time. Or, for example, we do simultaneously several actions. We're watching at the phone, and at the same time we're grabbing some papers. And especially what we're doing now is, we're walking around with phones, and we're watching our phones while we're walking. And that's something that is changed in the market. Because, yeah, it has an impact on our lenses that we have to provide to our customers. A very important impact. So we found a new behavior. People are walking with the phone and using it at the same time. So if we find a new behavior, we need to make new lenses that are adapted to that behavior. But to do so, first we need to measure something. And to measure that behavior, we use eye tracking devices. And eye tracking devices are actually little devices. You just click on the temple of the frame and they measure several things. For example, they can measure UV light, they can measure the distance we are watching, the direction we're watching, they measure also the ambient light. So quite a lot of things. And for example, something you can notice is that people are watching a lot of time at 25, 30 centimeters. I already told you, if you use digital devices, you're working much closer. That's why we already had that digital area in our progressive lenses. The second thing we noticed, and that's what new, is that 50% of our time, more or less now, people are using low light circumstances, mesotopic circumstances, as we say. And that's something something new, and I will come back to that a little bit later. So we noticed a new behavior, walking around with and using a digital device at the same time. So we measured the impact, and I will show you some results of our study. So at the left, you see a person in an airport tracking a certain field at the airport, and she's not using her phone. And after that, this person will track the same field in the airport, but then she will using her phone at the same time. And you will notice something. So you can see that actually when you're using at the same time your phone and tracking a visual field, that you use the double of your visual field. So that's a first very important finding. The second one is, at the left, the person that is tracking some devices in a room, and its accommodation is steady, slow. But if you use at the same time your phone, and you each time have to come back and watch at your phone, your accommodation becomes much more dynamic. So that's a second very important finding. And actually, there is a third finding that we noticed is that we are not using any longer our head to see to the left or to the right when we're using a phone. So before we wanted to see to there, we just turned our head or to the right. Now what we're doing is we're watching the phone and we're watching with our eyes to the sides of the lenses. And you see already this can have some impact on our visual behavior because, yes, to the side of the lenses, there are a lot of aberrations. So if we make new lenses, then we have to give a solution to these problems. So we have to give a solution to these aberrations in the side of the lenses so that people can watch with their eyes to the side of the lenses. That's something we have to give a solution. A second solution is that the design that we want to propose is for all age group, one design philosophy for everyone. And that's the first time that someone is doing this actually. So for each age group, the same design. And why is that? Well, everyone is on that phone, from young to old. So everyone has the same visual behavior. So we have to make, like we say, a fingerprint design. Next slide, please. Yeah. So to explain a little bit better, before we were using our eyes like on a train track in vertical direction. So we had the far area, vertical direction, intermediate. We had our reading area and the digital area in the eyes lens already. But now we are not with our eyes any longer on a train track. Now we are with our eyes in space. So to present a little bit about the lenses, the same design for all lenses. First, single vision Smart Life lenses, because the new design is called Smart Life. So I put some aberrations for the same corrections for spherical lens, an aspherical lens, and a Smart Life lens. And in the Smart Life lens, you can see that the aberrations actually have been softened out, that you can move your eyes around in a single vision lens so that you have no perceived blur in these lenses. So you can walk around with them easily and use your phone at the same time. And actually, these Smart Life lenses that we introduced are the best single vision lenses we ever made. They have an average 88% larger efficient field than the lenses we were making before. The second lens group is the digital lenses, also Smart Life, the same design. And digital lenses is what some other providers called relax lenses before, for example. These lenses are lenses that provide like supportive accommodation below in the lens between 0.50 till 1.25 in the Zeiss digital lens. And it's for people that actually still have very good accommodation, but they have digital eye strain problems. So they have symptoms like they have headaches, they have red eyes, blurry vision, things like that. And they need this supportive accommodation. So to show you a design, this is our previous design. The aberrations were much higher to the sides. So we have been softened them out and we pushed them a little bit up to the upper side. And this allows us to keep our binocular vision actually when we move to our eyes to these aberration zones. And the last group is the progressive lenses, actually. The same slide, actually, higher aberrations than in the digital, of course, because now they we give an addition, not any longer a supportive accommodation, and we soften them out again. And to understand a little bit better, I will show you an eye movement, actually. Yes, the blue dot is going to do an eye movement through the aberration zones. And when it goes to the aberration zones, you will see some apperceived blur on the vertical line. And then a second eye movement with a Smart Life progressive lens. So you go with the green dot to the aberration zones, and you will see that the apperceived blur is much lower than before. And this allows us actually to keep our binocular vision when we go with our eyes through these aberration zones to the sides of the lenses. And it allows us, of course, to walk around, avoid objects when we walk with our phone and using the phone and using our phone at the same time. We added a second technology beside the design in these lenses. It's called luminance technology. I mentioned in the beginning that we're using now, while we're using actually phones, during 50% of our time, we're using low light circumstances. And if we do that, actually, our pupil is wide open. If we can come back to the previous slide, please. What's happening is actually when, if compared to a camera, for example, when the eye is closed, then everything is clear. But when the camera is open, you see the sides of the picture are blurry. Why is that? Because when the pupil is big open, the same as with the camera actually, the light comes in, but these rays are not in focus. They are in defocus. They will fall a little bit next to the fovea, a little bit behind, and they will give a blurry vision. Now, to give a solution to that is, of course, we cannot put, like, for example, a pinhole or close a diaphragm. No, the pupil is wide open. What we can do is we not calculate it any longer. The middle way of a light bundle, no, we will calculate the whole bundle of light. So we will divide the whole bundle in hundreds of bundles, use the average frequency of these bundles to recalculate the trajectory of a light bundle. And the result is actually that you get images that are much clearer, the colors are much brighter. And this is important because our eye is wide open when we're using 50% our phones during low light circumstances. Now, for Smart Life lenses, all designs, we ask the age, birth, the date of birth. And why are we doing that? Because actually it's like an addition, a certain addition corresponds more or less with a certain age. It's the same with the opening of the eye. When we're getting older, the pupil opens less. You know that. So that's why we ask the age that corresponds in average with a certain opening of an eye, and that's the opening we will use to calculate the luminance technology so that you get the clearest images possible for that opening, for that age group. And actually the image you can compare with a television, actually an old television and an HD screen, the images really become much clearer. Now to resume, so we have younger people, single vision lenses, they see blurry. There is blur in single vision lenses, especially in aspheric and spherical to the sides. So it gives them some problems. Digital lenses, they have digital eye strain problems. And then progressive lenses, of course, they need an addition. And with Smart Life lenses, actually, we give a solution to that while they're using their phone. And what's actually rather important is the lower image. I told you it's one design for every age group. What is happening actually is if you're giving a digital solution to someone, of course there is some more aberration in the lens because there is supportive accommodation. But the aberrations are put away in the same way from single vision, digital, as in progressive, on the same spots. Only the aberrations have become higher. And this is the first time this has been done. And why is it so important? Well, now if you change from one age group to another, there is no longer an adaptation. You get adapted to the design straight away because it's the same design. So this is more or less what I wanted to tell you about today, but I'm open for any questions. So I would say go ahead. You can also join us at our booth, of course. Very welcome, because today I addressed only 2 little topics, but there are so many topics you can talk about size. And we're always willing to connect to you and give solutions to problems you may face. So if someone has a question, don't be afraid to ask. Nobody? Well, maybe I will tell you something about another product in that case, something we launched now very recently in the market. It's called Clearview Single Vision Finished Lenses. Finished lenses, of course, are stock lenses. And what's special about these lenses? Well, in the past we had spherical stock lenses, aspherical stock lenses. Spherical stock lenses, we actually are made with 1 parameter, 1 radius of reference. Aspherical are made with 5 reference radius. But our Clearview stock lens are made with 700 reference points, and they are made in freeform. So what's the result of that? Well, the result is that on average, these kind of stock lenses will give you 3 times larger, efficient, blur-free vision compared to other stock lenses. And this is the first time that this has been done, and nobody did this before. We worked 3 years in this project to realize this kind of production. So the lenses, of course, become also much flatter, thinner, and lighter. So and they exist, of course, in all indexes. They even exist in photofusion, in several colors. So that's a new product we launched very recently. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, I can explain that on our booth. A new product we launched also this year, actually, is Photofusion X. And what's Photofusion X? We already had Photofusion, what was already the fastest changing photochromatic lens in the market. But now with Photofusion X, we do much better. It is 2.5 times faster to darken and to become clearer than our previous version. So it is really a revolutionary photofusion lens in the market. Much faster than our competitors and much faster than the fastest product we already had in the market. It exists in 5 colors. There is a blue one, a brown one, a gray one, extra gray, and and a pioneer one. So that's a new one. And this lens also, it's made actually in a way with a new, it's not something that we improved actually on our previous photofusion. It's a complete new product. It's a new material. It's a new dye that we use in this photofusion lens. So it's a complete new invention. So that's also, if you want to know more about it, I'm willing to give some more explanations on the booth about these, great photofusion lenses. So that's everything I have to tell to you today. You're more than welcome to join to the booth today and connect with Zeiss. Please leave your data to us so that we can connect with you also and give more information about our products. And we really hope that we can give also an alternative to this market, that you have more options to your patients to really have lenses that can also give solutions to problems you could not provide till now. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome for all those just joining us. So let's have Zenith Insurance for their presentation.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nonyelum Nwoke, General Manager, Northern Region at Zenith Insurance. It's with great pleasure that I stand here and say it's a privilege because it's a partnership, the partnership with the organization that we really treasure at Zenith Insurance. It's beyond just a business partnership for us at Zenith. It's because of how important your occupation is, or I would say your sector, it's something that we really are happy that we're in partnership with your organization. At the moment, we do professional indemnity, which is very important in the sense that we pray it never happens, but a lot of times there are things that happen in the course of doing your job. It could be some level of negligence, omission, or just a mistake. And a lot of times there are financial consequences to it. So professional indemnity that we offer the association is to be that we're there to protect each and every one of you when such things happen, and then we take on the cost of or any of the financial consequences that will come owing to any negligence, mistake, or omission. But the package we have had taken it further to have some of the benefits. You have death, accidental death, you have total disability, and you have temporal disability. And in all of that package, we had given, a discounted price for it, knowing that a long journey, a great relationship starts from the first day of that journey. So we are saying we're going on this journey with the association, and that's why we have also come here to say this is our second year running at your national conference. But we're also here to say it's been a great journey thus far, but we're also saying we would also like to deepen that relationship, to take it beyond where it is at the moment. What are we saying? We have sat down and looked at it and said, yes, we do professional indemnity. Yes, there are other benefits that are covered, but at the same time, there are clinics, a lot of optical centers. I've seen quite a number of them. And the first thing that occurs to us is saying there are equipments, because I've had some time to speak with some of your colleagues, and we had looked at the cost of most of the equipments now a lot much higher, especially with our exchange rates at the moment. To purchase those things, shipping costs, all of that to bring it in, because you and I know that we do not manufacture any of those things. Now, you spend so much money, maybe 25, 30, 40, 60 million to bring in those equipments. What have we put in place to protect those equipments? We were all here when we experienced the NSARS protests. The insurance industry paid so much claims at that time, including my company, because a lot of the businesses within that area that were affected do their insurance with us. And we met those claims, and we're still standing today. So we said today we'll take it beyond and share that with you today to say, we are willing, we're excited to protect most of those equipments that you have within your businesses that cost so much, to give an insurance to cover those equipments at a discounted rate, because we already have a relationship with the association. Going beyond that, apart, because those equipments are very important, because I know I have my eyes tested every year, and I do know that a lot of those equipments, when I see them, they're quite big, and I know they're not cheap. So we're saying we will also partner with the organization as long as you're a member of the organization, and then you want to insure your equipment in your clinics. We will do that at a discounted rate, which will not be, that's privilege beyond what we do for people outside of the business, outside of the association, who are insuring their equipment. We also have what we call a motor fleet insurance, where, all of us seated here, we all have vehicles. A lot of things, the level of insecurity that we have, just not in Nigeria, it's all over the world. It's not particular to us at the moment. That we would also do what we call a motor fleet insurance, where you would also get a discounted rate because you're a part of the association. So you will definitely get a rate slightly lower than what you will get from other places, and maybe with some extra added benefits also to it. Now, I know there are some people, I know a colleague of mine was just Judith, which she's the one most of you know because she's the relationship manager of this account. That a few people have started to do insurance, go beyond their professional indemnity with us. But we decided to speak to everyone as a group today to say, this is where we want to take this relationship beyond all of this. And we are excited. We can start the discussions here before we leave. We have a booth. Our booth is out there that you can discuss and talk to my colleagues where they're seated, or we can decide to have a proper conversation, speak with the executive body, come up and draw up a scheme which will be beneficial to each and every one of us seated here with regards to our clinics. And we would want to take it further. A little bit told us that the association has a new building that represents like a headquarters for us. We don't know how true that is, but we like to believe what the little bird said. And then we're also saying that it's also part of the package to also say that we can do fire and burglary for that building at a discounted rate for the association also. Like I said, and I'm going to repeat it again, we are very, very happy to be partnering with this association because of all the good work that each and every one of you do every day you step into your clinics. All that work really appreciated by society, and how well and how good can we give back and say thank you for all the work that you do, but partnering with you and making it easy for you to protect the things that are important to you, and also telling you that we're a trusted partner, that we will keep doing our service delivery is top notch. And all, people will say, okay, it's Zenith. You're here, you're speaking to us, but you're making money from it. Yes, it's a business. But at the same time, we're a business who have a culture of satisfying our customers. Your satisfaction, service delivery is what is most important to us, because we know that in the long run, when you have a strong partnership, there is tremendous growth. Everything doesn't happen overnight. We will take on this journey and it will be mutually beneficial to each and every one of us. I want to say thank you once again for giving us this opportunity. I also want to say that as each and every one of you go back after this conference, we wish you a very safe journey. And we as Zenith look forward to your next stop next year. And we are hopefully at that time, we have begun to do a lot more, and a lot more creative initiatives will come in that time. Thank you. But if there are any questions, because I know that there's a constraint for time, any questions to have, we can take them at our booth out there where we are, and then we'll answer any question. We'll take our time and explain anything that isn't very clear. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the conference. Safilo Group, Safilo Global is super honored, and it's a privilege to be in Nigeria. Believe it or not, it's my first trip to Nigeria, so I'm enjoying it quite a lot. I've moved via Lagos to Abuja, and you've got a beautiful country. Abuja reminds me of certain parts in South Africa, and that is where we're based. So a little bit about South Africa, and previous exhibitioners were mentioning the word partnership. And that is why we made the trip. because we firmly believe that we cannot assist and partner with opticians like yourself in a country where we've never been. Hence why my visit to Nigeria this week. And I hope to engage with each and every one of you in booth number P3. Unfortunately, my stock and my samples is still caught in customs, and it's been there for 2 days. So we hope and pray that it'll be here by this afternoon so I can introduce you to the beautiful brands and the beautiful product that we have to offer you guys. Just a little bit of background. Next slide, guys. Next one. So Safilo, for those of you who don't know, we are the oldest manufacturer or frame manufacturer in the world. We're about 140 years old. So back in the 1800s, they started making frames. So we proudly the oldest manufacturer and designer in the world. We are also the second largest frame designer, manufacturer, and distributor in the world. Next slide. So just some numbers, and I promise you this won't be a death by PowerPoint. Safilo did, just to give you an idea how big the company really is, on a global scale. In 2021, we finished on 970 million euros net profit. We're present in about 40 countries. We employ more than 4,500 people across the globe. We've got 3 distribution centers. We work from central distribution centers in the world. We've got 5 manufacturing plants, and we've got access to over 100,000 stores like yourselves. And hopefully in Nigeria, we can start upping these numbers and doing business directly with you. Next slide. Next one. Right, you can hit all the bullet points. All right, very quickly, and this is something very passionate, or that I am myself very passionate about. We're not only here to sell you frames. I'm also here to discuss with you business, because that's what all of us are actually, besides being a doctor or an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. We are in business, and we are there and here to make money. So why do you want to stock branded frames? And very quickly, branded frames ends up being aspirational items. Believe it or not, people want to wear brands. People want to aspire to be wearing a specific brand. The end consumers believe that branded frames are expensive, right? Everyone believes branded frames, Jimmy Choo, Marc Jacobs, Tommy Hilfiger, Carrera. They believe it's super expensive. But in the Safilo portfolio, and when I get the chance to engage with you, in the Safilo portfolio, you will find that these type of brands are not that expensive. And there's various programs and levels of discounts, and that is the reason why we've entered into Nigeria directly from a supplier point of view, to discuss various business opportunities and concepts with you that fits each and every practice, from the smallest to the biggest of them all. There's a commercial offering for each and every one of us to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time. So showcasing the hottest global brands which we represent immediately attracts the consumer. Because remember, the moment you step out of that testing station or your testing room, you become a salesman. You become a salesperson. You become a retailer. And that is why we want to enter the market and partner with you as opticians to make better retailers, to assist you in marketing, to assist you in branding. And that is what Safilo South Africa is all about. One piece of advice: limit your brands. Rather stock less brands with less suppliers, but increase your collections. So in other words, the more you stock, the more you will sell of a specific brand. And have the right frames on display, which will make you a destination store where the consumers will start talking amongst one another and say, go to optometrist ABC, they stock Marc Jacobs, Jimmy Choo, or they have a whole bunch of branded frames. Build a name for yourself through the frames and the brands that you keep. Next slide. You can bring up the bullet points. Very important. Branded frames yields higher profit. So with Safilo, you are able to look at about, if we are on the right discount tier, you are able to look at 70% plus margin. Now, in the industry, that's pretty much unheard of when you work with multinationals and branded frames. So why would you stock a branded frame? Because you make more money out of it. So focusing on selling only generic frames and cheap product will mean that you need to sell more than double the amount of generic or cheap product frames to make the same turnover and profit of selling one branded frame. And I know my time is limited, and I would love to have this discussion with you, looking from a business point of view, how and what brands is right for your practice, what is right for your area. Now, I don't want to make this a death by PowerPoint, so I thought let me share with you some of our beautiful brands by playing a couple of videos, brand videos. I've selected 3 of our main brands, Carrera, Polaroid, as well as the new brand Under Armour. Enjoy.
Please, can we round up? Please, can we round up?
There we go. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, please.
So for everything eyewear, please come visit us at booth P3. You cannot miss that booth. Thank you.
Good afternoon, delegates. We have come to the point where we would have to listen to our presenters for the scientific sessions. You recall that yesterday we could not take 2 of our scientific sessions, the oral presentations, but we are going to do that right away. And without wasting further time, I'm going to invite the first oral presenter for the first scientific session upstage to give us his presentation. I have the singular honor and privilege to invite Dr. Ovenseri Obomo to give us his first oral presentation. Please, a round of applause as he comes up stage. topic of his presentation is as displayed. And Dr. Venserio Bomo is a senior lecturer in the Department of Optometry, Center for Health Science, University of Highlands and Islands, UK. Please, another round of applause as he takes the podium.
Can I take this here?
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I want to respectfully recognize all the dignitaries, the registrar of the Optometrics and Dispensing Registration Board of Nigeria, and all the professors here seated. Sorry, I have to come with my bag here, if you don't mind, because I don't want what happened in 2018 to happen again. I'm sure some of us know what happened in 2018. If you don't, I will tell you after the presentation. Again, I also want to quickly remark that I'm doing this presentation. Please still stay on the slide. On the first slide, please. I'm presenting this on behalf of CEFI, and the co-authors with me are Liv Oswago and Dr. Benedine Ekpenyong. Next slide, please. Now, I want to look at the problem. One of the things that has kept us where we are at is because either we do research in this part of the world, at least vision science research, and those research don't get out to influence policy. Or we do research for those in academia, we do research because we want to gain promotion. And oftentimes, soon after the promotion, the research ends there. But research should typically be done, not because you want promotion. Research should actually be done because you want to change practice, you want to influence policy, you want to, bring information that will inform policy formulation. So the problem we identified is that there is underrepresentation of indigenous African vision researchers in the global research space. Now, if you Google a research out of Africa, yes, you may get something, but if you look at the quality of the research, oftentimes, if you're a policymaker, you're going to doubt if you can use that information to formulate a policy. Either the way the research was designed, or the impact, the quality of the journal that published it is not enough. And so policymakers will probably not place much weight on it. And so that's the first problem. Then there's also the second problem of absence of indigenous African research output in high-impact journals to shape policy making on the continent. And then there's also limited research training in vision science. Now, the idea behind this is not because we don't have qualified persons, but most people that have gone ahead to become professors, PhDs and all that, have actually done it not in core vision science, but in related and allied sciences. And so when you are looking for information to, change things in Africa, you hardly don't find it. And so we discovered this problem, and our group, which we'll talk about later, next slide please, decided to look for the solution. Next slide, and next. And so in 2020, just at the beginning of the COVID pandemic and just before the lockdown started, a group of African vision researchers made up of about 10 of us, 11 of us, came together to begin to see and think what we can do to change that problem that I'm sure some of us will agree with that problem does exist. And so we set up and came up with the idea of setting up Center for Eye Care and Public Health Intervention Initiative. Next slide. And this group has been registered now in Nigeria, although we went through a whole lot of heat. And one of the things I must remark is that yesterday, when Fela Durotue was talking about partnership, he described a scenario. And when we heard that story, all of us said, wow. And the story was of, that oncologist who had access to equipment in the US and who could actually give that equipment at no cost to Nigeria. But that process was not possible because of certain administrative bottleneck. And so we went through that, but eventually we got, because at a point in time when we were having this bottleneck in registering this group in Nigeria, the option was, okay, let's go register it in South Africa. But eventually we did get it registered in Nigeria. So that's something can come out of here. Now, if you look at Africa, we have the highest number of optometrists in Africa. We have the highest number of optometry training schools in Africa. We have a good number of professors. But then it's like when things about optometry is being decided in Africa, it's either domicile in South Africa and then they'll probably just throw crumbs at us. Next slide, please. And so the group was registered in Nigeria and we affiliated now with the University of Calabar, as well as, next slide, just click, as well as the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. So the group is made up of 1 Ghanaian, 7 Nigerians, and 3 South Africans. And of course, that clearly tells you how robust we are as Nigerians, but oftentimes we are usually underrepresented when it comes to policy. So we can, in spite of having 7 members there, we still struggle to get some things done. And of those persons, we are domiciled across different countries, 2 in Australia, 1 in Ghana, 2 in Nigeria, 1 in New Zealand. And of course, we're going to probably see some of those people just now. And we're also talking about partnership at this meeting. And one of the things we're also emphasizing is the fact that research is not just what 1 person or 2 persons will sit down and let us do research. Research that are impactful today are research that has, multidisciplinary contribution. Not just research by, yes, 2 optometrists can do research, but if 2 optometrists do research and there is a statistical aspect of it, and you do your statistical analysis, somebody probably ask, who was the biostatistician that did this analysis? Who is an expert in that field that, interpreted this result and gave you this result? And so those are some of the things that, we give quality that will make people respect the output. And so we have 9 optometrists, we have a biostatistician, and somebody who's in core public health. Although some of the optometrists do have a master's in public health. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So these are the members of the group, and because we're from different, next slide. So the names of the persons are there and the schools they are representing. And unfortunately, and I say that with not to indict anybody, none of the optometry schools in Nigeria is represented in this group. And so this is one of the motivations we had to say, look, let us bring this to this meeting to begin to tell us this is what this group is about, and to also let us know what this group can support and contribute in terms of research in this part of the world so that our voice will be heard. Now, if you look at it, there are 2 optometry schools represented from South Africa, 1 optometry school from Ghana, and those are the other schools that represent Nigeria is University of Calabar, where although you don't have an optometry program there, but we do have an optometry. Dr. Benedin is there, who is representing us. So if there's anything about optometry, we now need to force or appeal or beg, because before we can get this thing, rooted in the optometry department. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so the strategic focus of this group are, 1, to provide evidence using African data for policy making. Now, in my earlier speech, I said that, look, it is not such a good thing that you want to make policy or you want to make a statement about what is happening in vision science or in eye care in Africa, and you're maybe using report from Ghana or report from South Africa or some other places. And Nigeria, in spite of our huge number and in spite of the number of schools, we are not represented. So we want to, or they even probably quote figures from the US or from the UK or some other places, and from there extrapolate and say, okay, if this is what we get, what we have there, this is what it probably is for Africa. So we wanted to change that narrative. Two, to provide support and mentoring for early career African vision researchers. For example, graduate students who are master's students in any of the masters or PhD students in any of the optometry program across Africa, we can provide some mentoring and support to. Since I came, of course, everybody will meet over and say, carry us along now, and all of that. So this group exists to fill that gap, to say, okay, this is what we can do, this is how we can support the optometry universities to say, look, if you have a master's student or a PhD student, we can bring this support. For example, now for most of us who probably, when you write paper, you Google and you're looking for some articles. There are some articles, you know the information you want is in that article, but you can only just have access to the abstract. But you want the full paper. And by the time you click, they will tell you have to what? Pay. And what you do, and of course I've done that before, what you will do is you will skip it and look for a free one. So what we can provide in that respect is that because some members of this group are domiciled in different parts of the world, and from their institution, they have institutional access to some of these papers. So they can access it for free. And so if I'm working with, say, a PhD student or a master's student in ABSO, UNIBEN, FUTO, any of these schools, and they say, oh, please, I am looking for this paper. Could you help me get it? I can use access from my school, get the paper, and then email it to that person. And that is some support. Now, we also say we want to also collaborate and work with African universities and researchers in delivering high-impact research from an African perspective. And that is the key word here, the African perspective. I'm going to talk about just now how a global study was done and Africa was not represented in that global study. So we have completed, so far since we started in 2020, we have completed 3 projects which have been published, and we have the following ongoing project. Next slide. Now, one of the projects we've completed, next slide, is a systematic review and meta-analysis of myopia prevalence, please can we stay on that slide, in African school. Now, if you ask today, what is the prevalence of myopia in Africa among school children? All right? It will be difficult to get a specific value. You probably will go online, and if you're lucky, you probably just see one article done by Johnson et al., and you pick that, and maybe that will tell you it is 10%. And the other person will probably Google and maybe get another paper by Okonkwo and Mohammed, 5%. You're going to be getting various values. And oftentimes when people want to make policy, because these things are varying, they cannot really say, okay, this is what it is. So what we decided to do was to do a systematic review to look at all of these, results that have been done with the different prevalences of the different studies, put them together and, subject that to some analysis to say, this definitely is what the prevalence of myopia is among school children in Africa. Now, since that paper was published in February, we have had 1,684 people looking at that paper. And this paper is also in the WHO website, is in what was that again? The African region of the WHO. And so what we are trying to do is send this information out so that tomorrow, if WHO is probably planning something to say, okay, we want to plan refractive error surveys for African school children, they'll not be looking for what is the prevalence, or will not get a prevalence of what it is in South America, and they use that to plan for us. Now they can have a value that is indigenous from Africa, that was derived from here, from published paper here, and they say, look, because for a systematic review, the evidence of systematic review is stronger than individual review. And so we believe that this is the figure that will be quoted. Next slide. And so from that study, we found out that the poor prevalence of myopia among school children aged 5 to 18 in Africa is 5%. Now, if you look at what it is, look at the reported prevalence. Of the 24 articles that we used for this report, the prevalence was reported from 0.5% to as high as 22.6%. So if you are going to do planning, for example, and you got a paper, one is saying 0.5%, another one is saying 22.6%, which of these value will you use in planning? But now we have put all that varying figures together, and we have come up with a particular figure to say this is what the prevalence of myopia among school children is in Africa, which of course can be used for planning and other things. And another thing that we also found in this study is that there is a difference now, because when we talk about cycloplegic refraction in children, oftentimes we always feel that it is the myopia, so it is the hyperopia that is concealed. So when you do cycloplegic refraction, that is when you actually unveil the true picture of hyperopia. But from our study, we found out that even non-cycloplegic refraction can conceal the true prevalence of myopia. And so one of the things we're recommending based on this study is that for every child that you want to do refraction for, you must do cycloplegic refraction, because the prevalence you will get, look at it, 4.2% versus 6.4% for non-cycloplegic and cycloplegic refraction. Next slide. Now, what are the implications of this study? Next slide, just pick them, okay? The first thing is that myopia prevalence in Africa, African school children, is low at 5%. Now, that 5% compared to, say, 8.4% among the Americans, 14.3%, and 9.2%, and 18.2% in Western Pacific. Now, this study also provides a stronger evidence for the prevalence of myopia in African school children. Now, there was a global systematic review that was done to estimate the prevalence of childhood myopia globally. And that study reported that by, I can't pronounce that name. Now, he only got 2 publications from Africa, and based on those 2 publications, gave an estimate of, refractive error for myopia. But we believe that for our own study, where we use 24 publications to estimate, that will be a better estimate of the true prevalence of myopia in Africa compared to the one that used to, or even Ashemi that used 8 publications. Of course, you can see that for the Ashemi study, they estimated 6.2% for children aged less than 20, and then for individuals aged 20 and above, the prevalence was 16.2%. Now, the other implication of this study is the changing lifestyle in Africa. Now, for those of us, people like me, who grew up playing in the sand, like the president who was also selling things, those of us that sold things on our head, we always on the street, play football on the street. So most of our activities were outdoors. But today, our children will drive in AC cars to classroom, they sit down in classroom, they do their book work, come back to the house, they sit inside. They are not exposed to the sun, to ambient sun. And in our days, we didn't know what computers are, so we're not doing so much near work. But today, it's either they are reading or they are playing game. And this will lead to an increase in myopia. So what we are saying from this is that although the prevalence of myopia appears low today at 5%, but because of this changing lifestyle that our children are exposed to, we are going to begin to see a spike in the prevalence of myopia given the changing lifestyle. Next slide. And so, another thing that is making wave in Africa, globally today in myopia, is myopia control. Not just prescribing for myopia, prescribing glasses for myopia. Myopia control, so that you can control the progression of myopia from mild myopia up to pathological myopia. And so that study has implication for that. Now, the other study that we have also completed was published in this year, 2022, and it is Trends in Myopia Management Attitudes and Strategy in Clinical Practice, a survey of eye care practitioners. And at this point, I just want to acknowledge all optometrists, some of them here and those who are not here, who participated in this study when we sent out the survey. Now, what was the rationale for doing this study? Next slide. In 2016, there was a global study of myopia management attitude and strategies in clinical practice. And in that global study, if you set the whole of that document and you type Africa, Africa only appeared once. And what was said about Africa in that paper was that we did not have sufficient data. They only got 7 respondents of all the eye care projects, of all optometrists in Africa. Only 7 people responded. And because 7 people responded, they could not analyze that data to show us a trend. And so when people are talking about, oh, this is what we are doing now in myopia control, Africa will not be represented in that discourse at all. That was 2016. When they repeated the survey again in 2020, they got 16 respondents from the whole of Africa. And for the same reason, they said they could not analyze it. And so when we saw that paper, we now decided to say, look, is it that we're not doing anything about myopia in Africa? And we decided to use the same tool that was used in this other global study and decide to use that tool for Africa. Now, to also talk about collaboration, because this idea is not just about let us fight them. Let us say that we can also do it. One of the lead author of this global study, John Wolfsing, we incorporate and say, look, John, you did this study, you said there was nothing from Africa. We want to repeat this study from an African perspective, from an, more Afrocentric, and eventually we got the result. Next slide. Next slide, just click. So, no Africa in global trends. Next slide. Next. Good. Now, when we did this, I think this survey was on for about 3 months. We got 330 respondents from 23 African countries. They did it in 2016, got 7. Did it again in 2000, got 16. But we did it in 3 months and we got this number. So, if this group was not existing, and if we're not trying to say, look, let us do research from amongst us to show what we are doing, we would not have had this result. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so this is one of of course, the papers are available so you can access it and read it. But something I want to quickly point out here. Now, we tried to separate the Ghanaian and the Nigerian study because they form the bulk of the respondents. So those two were analyzed separately, and the other countries were pulled together. Now, what we probably will see here is that, look at the first slide, single vision spectacles. We are looking at what do optometrists think is the effectiveness of these different myopia control and myopia management strategies. And you can find that the whole lot of people still feel that single vision spectacles is quite effective. Next slide. And I won't talk about that the chart on that side is my right. Okay? I'll talk about this one. Now, what I want to talk about here is that all those studies have shown that undercorrection of myopia is not effective in the control of myopia. In fact, if you undercorrect myopia, it is going to progress faster. Yet, look at the proportion of practitioners in Africa that still use undercorrection. So, if you look at the Nigerian one, it is, if you look at just below 40 there, so about 60% still give undercorrection to control myopia. And compare that to what is happening when all countries was put together, and look at what is happening in Ghana, and then look at when the other countries were put together. So you see where we stand, at least from the Nigerian perspective. Next slide. Next slide. Now, the other study that we've completed is a systematic review of diabetic risk assessment tools in sub-Saharan Africa. Again, this is another place where things are imported and used here without taking into account our, peculiar circumstances. For example, whereas in the Western world, they probably will not eat so much of carbohydrate, but I will eat eba in the morning, probably eat fufu in the afternoon, and in the evening I will eat rice. Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if I want to comply with this time because I've been kept waiting since 2 o'clock yesterday. All right? So, but the point about this was the fact that we found out that there is no single African diabetic risk assessment tool that is indigenous to us. So what is used is what is used for the Finnish, and whereas other countries have developed their individual, but as a continent, we don't have a continental risk assessment tool for diabetes. So we also looked at this study, and the result is there, and we can access it. Next slide. Ongoing projects. Just click OK. Now, we're also now looking at risk factors for myopia in Africa. We are looking at myopia education. Please stay where you are. Okay. Myopia education, awareness attitude amongst parents. Now, I'm sure some of us here who probably had myopia when we were much younger. I had myopia after I left school, and they said because I was not reading so well, that's why I got myopia. But for those of us who had myopia much earlier, and I'm sure even practitioners, you see parents will tell you, no, I don't want my child to start wearing glasses now. Why? Because if they start wearing glasses now, by the time they are older, they will go blind. So we want to survey what parents know about myopia, because the idea is to forestall the progression and all the things that has to do with myopia. Then investigating the glaucoma practice pattern in Africa. Now, this study, we've collected data. Now, there was a question that was asked about, the comment about glaucoma that was made by Dr. Wan yesterday. I'm not going to go into that. But what this study is revealing, we want to find out, in terms of management of glaucoma, or even diagnosis of glaucoma, what kind of assessments do optometrists do to assess glaucoma before you say there is a glaucoma present in this eye? And so the study is being completed but yet to be published, and I think it's undergoing review now. Now, what to also do a study instituting annual optometric practice review. Now, that tool has been designed. I want to begin to have an annual review of practice of optometry in the continent. Now, again, to go back to where I started from before, Safilo was here to just talk to us that Safilo is operating out of South Africa, right? Why is that so? And there are so many other, well, thank God Safilo is here in Nigeria now, but there are so many other brands who are operating. If they are coming to Africa, they would rather operate out of, South Africa. But if you look at our number and the huge market we have, if there are data to show that this is what practice, this is what we are doing here in this place, then it will be able, people can look at that and say, look, this is the business that is there, and they can use that to, make some policy changes. And they're also looking at African government capacity to meet the WHO agenda on refractive error. Now, one of the recent declaration by WHO, the Vision 2030, I think it is to say that by 2030, all African governments should have reduced refractive error by a certain percentage. Now, that policy has been made. I'm sure some people are already running with it. And it's not just for Africa, but globally. But we want to assess, given what we have in Africa, what is on ground, and how will our governments be able to run with that race and achieve the goal. Next slide. Now, there's this study we want to enlist. In case you are interested, you can email that person there. We want to also conduct a study. Now that we found out in one of the studies that we did that there is no African or indigenous African diabetic risk assessment, we want to now design one. And one of the things we want to collect data on blood pressure, do lab tests. So if you are an optometrist, you are here, you do BP measurement for your patient, and you can refer and obtain lab results. So if a patient comes to you, can write a lab report to say, okay, go do this lab test, fasting blood sugar and some other tests. The research will pay for the, all right? The research will pay for the test, and then you can measure, do anthropometry measures, height, weight, and waist circumference and all that. And you can use Excel sheet. Once you collect data, you can represent them in an Excel sheet. Then we want you to, and you are interested in doing research, then you contact the email there so that we can, register your practice for the study. Because we want to now collect that data and come up with an African diabetic risk assessment. To next slide. Other engagement, next slide, just click them twice. So the group has organized a short online training. Now, COVID was a terrible thing that happened to us, right? COVID was a terrible thing. But there are some good things that came out of COVID. Number one, is that at least last year's conference, although I was not present, but I participated online. One thing that came out of COVID is that somebody, like this group, since 2020 that we started meeting, we have not met face to face. The research that we've been able to conduct, we have conducted virtually via Zoom. And so it shows to us that that tool is a formidable tool. And instead of having people to travel and move around, things can be done at that level and you can still get some good results. So we have organized that training for some graduate students at the University of Calabar. And then we're also currently mentoring a PhD student from Ghana. So this is a Ghanaian student who is doing his PhD in South Africa. And because of this group, he was introduced to us. We are mentoring the student, saying what you have done to us. You need this material, this how to do this. And so, if we could do this, now you look at the group. We are 7 Nigerians in that group. Right? A Ghanaian is already benefiting. So we also want our people here who are doing masters and PhD. Forget ASU strike. While ASU strike is going on, while you are at home, you can still interact and communicate via Zoom, and we should be able to provide that support. Next slide. Now, this is the last one. So what lessons have we learned from this group? We have learned exchange, we have learned teamwork, we have learned how to share, we have learned inspiration. We've had some successes, assist, trust. But the main thing that we have been able to achieve with this group is we have established the essence of collaboration. The essence of collaboration, of working together. Now, gone are the days where, because I want to become professor fast, right? I will do a paper, sir, it's 2 points for one paper, right? Good. Now, I don't want to share that 2 points with another person. So I'll be a sole author. So if I need 10 points, by the time I do 5 papers, I already have my 10 paper and then I get my promotion. Those days are long gone. In fact, the more the authors of your paper today, the more strength is attached to the results obtained from that paper. Do you know why? If I'm doing a paper alone, I'm the sole author, and I'm doing the analysis that is not fitting well, I could just say, okay, let me remove that one and then manipulate it. But if we are 3, 4, 5, even if 2 of us will agree, there will be 3 same people who will say, no, this is not good. And then, of course, I wouldn't want to appear as if I'm not an ethical researcher. I'll probably just concede to them. We'll not find a way of reporting the result as it is. And that is the essence of collaboration. And so, the theme of this meeting has been partnership, collaboration. Now, what I have here, competition to replace competition, is what I got when Nigerian banks started coming to Ghana. And at the time, it would appear as if they were competing amongst themselves. But they had a meeting, and in that meeting, they said, look, we are not competing against ourselves, we are cooperating. And they achieved so much success to the point that the traditional ruler of the Ashanti region said, look, they don't want any Ghanaian bank, any Nigerian bank to come to the Ashanti region, because when they got into Accra, they took over the space because they were working together, sharing resources, sharing information, and all of that. They were spreading so fast. So when we work together in teamwork, either in clinical practice or in research, we achieve much more together. Now, the number of publications we have been able to do with this collaboration, if we're working individually, we'll probably not have completed one. Thank you so very much. Questions? Any question? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ovensere, PhD, that's how I call you. That presentation was good, and I'm talking in terms of the area of collaboration. Especially when it comes to optometry, we have a lot of researches, and just like you mentioned, some are for promotion purposes. And it looks like most of our research are meant for the academia. If you look at even our programs, convocation, everything is just professor this, professor that, this person, all in the academia. And that makes our presence not felt. Why I'm saying that is because in the National Eye Survey, we have kept referring to 2006 blindness survey that has been so outdated. And we have had a lot of researches that have been done, that are not reflected and they are not into policy. Government is not using them. So all these things are researches we do.